Are you able to see now?
Yes, sir, we are able to hear.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vinayak, Forsemi Technology India Private Limited. So I'm here with you to give a brief introduction about basic concepts of robotics. Actually, morning session was really good. Mr. Mohan sir had given you a lot of presentations and PPT profiles. Today, what I'm going to cover up is more of a construction kind of. See, I understand you are all FDPs coming from college background. So, what you can do with your lab and how you can encourage your students to come up with some interesting robots, how it can help the humankind or the human life in day-to-day activities. It could be in the industry, or it could be at home, or it could be at space, or it could be any other parameters. It could be even in a village for a farmer where it can help you in a field where for a growing or a crop, because these are all very consistent. So humans can go error, and most of you know about robotics. I'm not going to talk much about robotic applications where all it is used. I leave it to you because even today robotics is talked at even at a sixth standard level, because the robotics is even in your toy. When you bring a toy to home, even the toy can also be a robotic kind of, where you have 300 rupees, where you have a flying machine, you have a remote control. Probably these are all Chinese products which I'm talking. So the days are gone, and now we need to build our own robots to show our next generation how we can be better and how we can better ourselves. But there is a statement going around with the robots. There are two things. So let me talk about the good part of it and the bad part of it. The good part is, I don't know, it's a good part or bad part. They say at 2030, that is 10 years from now, it's going to kill 800 million jobs across the globe. But the same statement was made probably around 30 years back, in when 20 to 30 years back, like when the computers were coming to India, probably not only to India, to the world. So a lot of people thought the computers can eat away many people's job, but in fact, it has doubled the job capacity. So let us look at the positive side and the negative side. Like when I'm saying that, the computers have helped a lot today to getting the jobs done very precision. It could be even from auditor to the scientist. Today, computers are must, and it's a part of our life. You can't live without a computer or without a mobile phone or without these type of gadgets. So initially, the thoughts were different. After 20 years, we are experiencing this is part of our life, and it has to be like this. Probably the robots can be like this today, but down the line, it can be part of your life in assisting you in doing all your day-to-day activities. Okay, I'm assuming that it could take a better shot. While growing these developments in the field of mechatronics, basically why I call mechatronics is electronics with the combination of mechanical and mathematical modeling, the robot has come up a long way. So a lot of mathematical modeling is being gone into robotics. So get the precision of it. From an iron piece that could move only from few inches, there are now machines capable of jumping from high-rise buildings, detecting landmines, performing operations and troubleshooting. The When we mention robots, it reminds one of the Terminators probably we have seen in one of the movies, or cyborgs, which is having a mechanism of steel bodies rendered to eyes, which are like they have shown a lot of things which can destroy the world. On the other side, it can save the world kind of. But early, if you look at the Star Trek days, in the current cybermatics, which called the agents in Matrix or X-Men, these are the agents have time reminded for Holocaust, which has emerged for a new found technologies and fear for just for confounding. If I go on like this, it can go on, but let me get back to the history of robotics. Then we'll go where the so I just will leave it to you to read out, like how it deals in the construction, the feedback, the process, the implementation. So these are all things which will come as we move along, how the implementation. But if you look back at history, the robotics was way back in 1950s. It was came by Karl Kappak. It's a play of Rosum, universal robots, denoted the birth. It is a superior race which had an intelligence similar to that of humans. But later on, a lot of people introduced the law of robots, in the real-time world, how it can be. But the robot is a new terminology per se, if you want to ask me. But robots existed in the past also. If you look at the PLCs, probably 20 years back when we used to study before the microcontrollers era, so we were talking of PLCs. PLC is also part of robotics, which used to have a 24 volts power supply where you give a power supply to do some sort of action. So when you bring more and more intelligence, these intelligence turn out to be a new shape. Like a girl who is at one age, she's a girl only. Still, I can call her a girl. When she is small, she's a baby. As she grows, she becomes a girl. When she becomes married, she becomes a woman. But it's all the same feminine characters only. Likewise, from PLC to embedded today to robotics or to flying machines, all those things. We can keep on keeping jargon names, but end of the day, what it all means is some terminology which relates to something else, which means the study of this application towards the robotic technology. It's a branch of engineering that involves from conception to design to manufacture operations of machines assigned to specific precision in repetitive tasks. When I say repetitive tasks, so it could be a pick and place, or it could be a car manufacturing plant where it has to do a specific task. So this is also a part of robotics. Earlier, this used to be called as automation. Today, we're talking of a little bit of intelligence, how it can be moving forward, how the robotics define itself. So when we call reprogrammability or multifunctional manipulator designed to move into material parts, which are specialization throughout the various program motions for performing various tasks. It's not only one task. If you ask me the laws of robotics, it's a popular science fiction written by Isaac Asimov, created 3 laws for robotics long back. A robot must not injure a human being. There were 2 incidents in the past which robots were used, flying robots. I don't want to take the names of it, but they used it for some mismanagement. They used to use these robots to kill a person and to create some disaster. But that's not good. But it should not injure human being, or through the inaction, what you call through inaction, allow human being to come to harm. So it should not harm. The second law is robots must always obey the orders given by human beings. Means the given specified task. Basically, what is this task? These are the tasks which you are programming for the robots, how it has to behave, how it has to respond. It's all under your control. But if the control is taken over by other side, Amazon did a survey on this. They had 2 robotic things to have a chat. In this chat, what they did is they wanted the system with the artificial intelligence they built in, and they wanted the system to shout out CVs, basically resumes. These 2 systems started interacting, and it pulled out a lot of CVs were more of men, not of women. Now the question asks, why women are not competent enough? No, they are competent, but the database which was available with the computer in the past history, a lot of people, men had applied for a lot of jobs. Today we have a boom in the 20th century. We see a lot of women participating in these type of things. It could be all the domains, but earlier the men were predominant. So this pulled out a lot of men. So that shows the statistics, like how the computer's behaviors change, and they take the past, because again it was we who decided the computer to take the past. Okay, so how you give the inputs based on that, these things will react. So that's where it could conflict with your thoughts sometimes, until unless you give a proper instruction rate. The third law is the robots must protect its own existence. When I say its own existence, except where it could first law conflict the first or the second law. When I say first and again, this third law again replicates to the first law. Okay, so this is about the first slide which I'm talking about, the autonomous, and I just leave it all these things to read. I just gave a brief. There are many people who claim, today this was published in 1920, which you see the robot was robota, which means the slave or servant, in a different terminologies. So basically, the robots, what it is supposed to do is, it is supposed to listen to you and execute certain tasks, and the way it should meet our expectation to do all kinds of tasks. So the many types of robots are there. One is called mobile robot, rolling robot, walking robot, stationary robot, autonomous robot, remote control robots. There are many types of robots. When I say mobile robots, the term mobile itself is moving around. Rolling is where it has precise dimensions, and the walking robots, you have certain tasks, and then stationary or like some missionaries where it sits on one stand, or its own intelligence, and it detects it through camera, and it does it. And the remote control robots are sitting at some place, and through IoT or through cloud, you just start giving instruction to these robots, and these robots will listen to you and they execute those tasks very far off, basically. So most of the robots, again, there are a lot of challenges in robots asked also. When you say most of them will answer, they look like a human only, but interestingly, robots look like human is probably the most difficult robot to make it with Sophia coming out. It is usually very sensible thing as a model of robot after human being. A robot needs to be all the functions designed with the qualities which suits the primary task. Primary task means what you define, basically. It depends on the task at hand. Either it could be big or a small, or it could be a large task to move one particular object, or it could be some weight, or it could be in a mall, or it could be in any of these what you call inventory shops. It could be anything else. Okay, so the mobile robots are. I'll just go through one of the other. Then here also we have some of the slides where we go in detail. The first digitally operated programmable robot, Unimate, which was installed in 1961 to lift hot pieces of metal in the die casting. Because it's very dangerous in a die casting where you have temperature beyond 120 degrees. Sometimes it even can go to 1000 degrees also. There are some places where you have a tire manufacturing plant. Let's say for a tire manufacturing plant, there is a big challenge in the tire manufacturing or the tube manufacturing plant. And it has to be the particular temperature only, you need to expand it. At some point, suddenly power goes off or the temperature drops, the tire or the tire is waste. Basically, that is very cost for companies when they are running around. So at that point of time, to keep that type of activity and with the temperature, robots are well suited because they are a metal and a steel bodies which can handle these type of environment. The consistent heat human body cannot withstand. So these are the places where robots can be used predominantly. And this is a history of the robots where it started with very old skeleton to the advanced in 2017. I just leave it to you people to go through this. And these things in the morning session also you could come across a lot of videos where sir presented a lot of videos, and it's similar type. Could be these robots come with a different shape and size. These are all automatically operated machines which replace the human efforts. Basically, what we are trying to do is we want to reduce the manpower. At the same time, we want accuracy. At the same time, we want 24/7 a person to work on in a plant and machinery where by throughput in the sense the output. Output means the throughput is nothing but the results. Like, I want 100% result. That we call a throughput. It could be in a speed. When we talk in electronics, we call it a speed or data transmission. We always refer to throughput. When we talk of machineries, we talk of output. What is the output? What is the efficiency of these systems? So there, the robots, you can expect 99.99%, 100% results until unless there is some malfunction going in between, or a virus which has been affected, or a machine or a motor is stuck. That's where you can see some errors. Otherwise, robots are up to the mark of expectations of mankind, what you want to deliver. So this is one sort of thing where it can do a complex series of actions automatically. And these are all some of the series where it's been displayed here, where in machinery things where you have very sensitive, like, hand may be cut, or in a drilling machine where your finger may be cut. These accidents, we usually see it in any plants and machineries. In the robots, it's not that case. It's hitting one steel to another steel or one metal to another metal. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't harm. So that way you're safe enough to use these type of things. When it comes to definition of robots, so robots are, as well as computer systems, basically sensors. We'll just talk in brief about robots. What is this robots we are talking since morning? Robots. Let me go a little bit deep. How we can develop robots within the space given in a college. Okay. Now, what I want, just to begin with, a simple stepper motor will do. A stepper motor, which has got steps in size, which has got 4 wires. So each wire you can just control with a PWM. PWM means pulse width. So where you can give number of pulses for each wire, basically the 4 outputs. These are all again kind of transducers, actuators. When you come to that topic, we'll talk about it. As of now, we'll stick to stepper motor. So most of the robots use stepper motors, servo motors, or could be any kind of motors to rotate or to dive in. Each pulse can have, like, A, B, C, D. If I say four divisions, probably it is a part of your syllabus. I assume that you would have gone through the stepper motors. In stepper motors, you can achieve 360-degree. On the other hand, you can even achieve 420 also. You can divide that even further from unipolar to bipolar with the stepper motors. Again, stepper motors calls for a drivers if you're using for heavy weightlifting, that stepper motors again depends on the torque and the weight also. And beyond that, you need to increase the torque and you need to increase the capabilities of weighing Sir, are you able to see, sir?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to hear?
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್. ಹಾ ಸರ್.
Okay. Are you able to see the presentation?
Sir, you can minimize the screen and you can present, sir.
1 second, no?
Sir. We can see
1
that,
second,
sir.
I just turned off. 1 second. Okay. You able to see now?
Sir.
Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Suddenly network issues come up like this. So where did I leave, sir? Can you recall? Where did I leave? Where I missed out? You were talking about stepper motors.
Sir.
So using stepper motors, basically you can start building your robots. Basically, the minimum basic requirement is stepper motors. So the stepper motors come in different size and shape based on your weightage, torque. A lot of stuff are there. So here in the stepper motor, what happens? You need to give some kind of signals. Basically, these signals are to be pulses, what I call pulses. With the pulses, you can control the degree, like 360 degree you can control. Now I know stepper motor. How do I control stepper motor? To control stepper motor, I need a microcontroller. So the microcontroller will be anything. It could be Atmega, it could be ST Micro, it could be Motorola, or it could be Philips. It could be any microcontroller. It can be done as long as it does the job. It need not have a particular. But then now, once I have this microcontroller and stepper motor, what is the next step? But the microcontroller is only specific to application. You cannot have multiple things. Microcontroller does only one thing. Basically, you are working only with IOs. When I say IOs, input and output. With input and output, what you can do is just give some kind of signals. When I say signals, it's all binary from 0 and 1. All the time you can do is with IOs is only the pulses, high or low, that's all. Where you can have a time, time is I can have the pulses for 1 microsecond, or it can have one high and low pulse, or it could be a stream of continuous pulses to get certain tasks to be done. So these pulses, using these pulses, I can give it to the stepper motor using a driver. There is a driver in between which comes to control the stepper motor. So these drivers will take care of the stepper motor, and you can basically start controlling. When I start controlling this, I want to move, put a wheel to the stepper motor, and you start moving in the forward direction or the backward direction. Basically, you are trying to control the stepper motor. This is the first step. Now the next step is, okay, I have made a stepper motor. Using stepper motor, what I can do? I can make a wheel, I can make an arm, I can make a hand, I can move a head rotation, I can do body rotation, I can do all those things. Now, so this is the basic building of a robot. Yes, now I have done something to stand, to walk, to move around. So what should be next? The next would be your camera, where I want to see something. So there are ready-made cameras available. It may not be high-end. It could be even a 3 megapixel or 5 megapixel. With the old cell phones, what you have at home, 1,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees old cell phones, you have cameras. So similar, but may not be that clarity. But to begin with robots to play with basics, so you can have a camera to see what's happening. And these cameras have a built-in softwares where you may use to code in either in Python or C++ language. So again, these softwares has to be end of the day to be embedded in your controller. But the controller as such has got limitations of capacity of memory. So you cannot have it more. So in that case, you may have to use an external memory. What is that external memory? There are two types. When I want huge memory, I go for NAND flash. I want very fast, then you go for NOR flash. These NAND flash are already available in your pen drive. Whatever you use in pen drive, these are all nothing but NAND flash memory, which is having huge memory capacity. So I can put all the code into it. I can put all the tasks, what I want to get it done, I can do it. Now camera takes the picture and it puts in your this thing, and it can compare, I'm just saying some person XYZ, is this XYZ? Okay, you acknowledge. If it's not XYZ, you reject. It could be a thing which could be implemented at your door as a security person, okay, to begin with. And then you have fingerprints and finger thumbs, already you have it in college. Then you have access RFID codes. All those things can be brought into robotics to identify a person or to give a task. So to do some job. Say a person who comes as a manager, I come and put my fingertip, then the robot starts working. So basically a pick and place. Now the pick and place is nothing but the stepper motor, what I use, and you give particular dimension, particular degree, and you just pick it and move it and put it on the slot, and it does the job. Now I want some mechanical thing to be done. What is it? Could be accounting. Then I use a proximity sensor. What is proximity sensor? A proximity sensor is a sensor. In the proximity, there are different types of sensors. Here in this sensors, I put two types of sensors. One side I will be transmitting some length of wave of pulses. Other side I will be receiving. Whenever it breaks, it keeps a count of it. This we use it in automotive also in a cars where there is a particular chip for TO220 package which comes with series. So what it does is with this TO220 package of a transistor on the top of it they keep a magnet. So this could be even a Hall effect transistor also. Basically what I'm talking about, whenever the object moves it cuts and it creates a pulse. With that pulse I know there is one object gone. So with that pulse I can keep counting the pulses. Each pulse will keep a count of that particular object which is being moved in a plant or a production plant, could be a nut or bolt, and that counts. I can take it to the controller and controller gives a display. The display could be an output. It could be a LCD display or it could be a OLED or it could be something else, or it could be in the robot where it stores the data and it could be used in a cloud to manipulation. Now when it comes to 10 or when it comes to 100 you stop the process. The robot can stop the process remotely also, or physically also. When you're present you can give instructions to robots and robot can stop and you can program it accordingly. Now we talk of stepper motor, we talk of proximity sensor, we talk of camera, we talk of all kinds of sensors. There are multiple sensors. There are too many sensors. The sensors could be IR, ultrasonic sensor. The ultrasonic sensor is something sensors. When the object is coming at 10 centimeters, you want to stop this one, stop the process. So this ultrasonic sensor is basically made up of BAT concept. BAT, BAT, where it produces some frequency. So it could be in 45 to 75 kilohertz frequency. With that frequency, it will hit to that object and it will come back. And there is a cone built in ultrasonic sensors, and these sensors will receive, and based on that, it will calculate the distance. At what distance it is coming, you can calculate. Use ultrasonic sensors, which is already available in the market, and this can be used by your students or a faculty to build at this distance what's happening. And similarly, IR is there to sense, and there is something called gyrometers, accelerometers, if some object is falling, and this is basically placed in your cell phone also. When you rotate your cell phone, automatically it shows. Earlier it was used in flights. Why? Because you want to see the ground plane and the flight is in what angle, you don't know. These gyros will help you to identify which position you are, where you are, and accordingly the robots can take action. I think in the morning session you would have seen the robot falling and getting up, and how does the robot know this is the land and how I'm getting it? Because there is a gyro sensor which is built in, and these sensor will give you axis X and Y and Z, and based on that you will coordinate, will work, and basically based on that you again bring it back to the position. These gyro sensors are very low cost. It's available in the market. You can build this gyro sensor to robot. Now if robot falls, it can be made stand. Now there are mechanical people on this where they can build the body. So as electronics, computer science, and mechanical, and probably some other division like electrical or instrumentation, all these people come together. They can build robots. So they can bring their expertise. The mechanical guy can bring a 3D effect of mechanical stuff, and the computer science can bring the intelligence of software of MI and deep learning, all those things. Means basically you're trying to do advanced thing. Projects at that time probably you can use it. So that is one part of it. Now, having said this, now we have covered stepper motor, we have covered cameras. Cameras itself is a very complex thing because it calls for a DSP. You need to buy the camera which is built-in chipsets. You don't have to build a camera that will again a tedious complex process by itself. The camera itself is a complex process. Now, there is an interesting fact to share with you. The human body is built up of 56 lakhs of sensors. 56 to 58 lakh sensors, that's what they claim. If you can bring 58 lakh sensors into robotics, it can replicate human body. It can replicate human being. May not be the heart or may not be the life, but almost like a human being, you can do that. Now, other day I was talking to one of the lecturers. I was just talking about computers and the human body. Basically, whenever we talk of a brain of a computer, the brain of a computer or the brain of a robot is referred to computers. Why computers? Computers got a lot of intelligence to compute many things. What do you mean by compute many things? How does this happen? Let's give a simple example. Day-to-day activities, you're coming across a lot of computers. Everybody today it's a need of our or need of a testing where you need a computer as a must. Now, how does computer work? A computer has got a lot of intelligence. Basically, in computers, we have processor. So processor just does the arithmetic logic unit, what you call ALU. Along with that, it has got some math processor where it does the work very simpler. What do you call? There is a hardware accelerator and there is some processor. The hardware accelerator comes to picture whenever the workload is more in a computers. So this I'm talking of more of a processing point of view. But to understand in a simpler way, there are mechanical people, there are electronics and computer science. I just want to make it very simple and keep it simple to the ground. So how does this work is basically I put a USB, a pen drive. So the moment I put a pen drive, the computer recognizes and says, hey, there is a USB. I don't know, it may be USB or a joystick, or it could be some kit, or it could be something else with a USB, or it could be a pen drive. How does computer know? It's a mouse, it's a pen drive, it's a joystick. How does it know? Basically what they do is just like a human body. I can always compare a human body with a computer, and a computer which eventually correlates to robotics. So the robotics, if you want intelligence of robotics, the robotics brain has to be like a computer. That's what they claim. And that's how it is. So if I understand the computer properly, then the building robotics is very easy. How does it happen? See, these processor, like in the human body, so the blood and nerve, okay, listen to this carefully, the blood and the nerve. There is a correlation between the blood and the nerve where it takes all the pulses, all the signals to your brain. So brain itself is a very complex thing with too much of nerves. Likewise, any chip, any IC has got too many gates. How many gates? It could be even in billions of gates. Similarly, you have billions of nerves and systems in your brain, similar to that. Now, what happens? Whenever I pinch you on a hand or a leg, immediately brain gets to know it's a left leg. At this particular portion only he has pinched. How does it know? There is some input which is coming. Suddenly brain, it gets activated, means there is a blood and there is a nerve which take these signals to the brain, and brain says, yes, there is something happening. Now I need to take action. Probably it could be a small insect or a mosquito which is biting. Immediately your hand will go and it will hit that mosquito or try to disturb the system. So basically, similarly in computers, what happens? There is something called interrupts. What do you call? Interrupts. Now in a human body, the blood is running top to bottom, which keeps your cell, bones, nerves active. On the other hand, similarly in computers also, you have some interrupt signals which are self-generated in microseconds that keeps on running around with all the system. Now coming back to human body, suddenly one portion doesn't have a blood circulation. You come across a term called gangrene. If you are diabetic, you will come to know this topic very well. So if you have diabetes, India claims every 5% has 1% out of them have a diabetic. Okay. So if you're higher end, once you get to diabetic, the last stage, or probably if you hit with a metal or some object, if your this thing doesn't work, basically the blood circulation is not there, you develop a gangrene where you don't have sensation to that particular part. That part is as good as dead. Your leg has a gangrene, you are carrying a dead leg on your body. Basically, it doesn't have any. You pinch, you hit, you heat it up, you make cold. It doesn't have any sensation because it loses its sensitivity. Similarly, in laptops also, if the USB doesn't work, there could be a driver problem, or it could be an interrupt problem, or it could be a software problem, or it could be a hardware problem, or circuitry could be having a problem. Similarly, in the leg also, I'm just comparing a human body with a computer. Now, on the other hand, these interrupts will be generated self, and it will be revolving within that. And suddenly there is an interrupt of USB which you plug in. Suddenly there is an interrupt, and that interrupt will trigger the computer and say, hey, there is some unknown body who is coming. Suddenly it will look for the drivers. If the drivers are there, the matching, immediately the mouse says, okay, mouse starts working for you. If the mouse is new and it is not there, the mouse will have an internal chip of a flash which will start inbuilt. It will start installing your driver. That's where you saw in the bottom, you'll say installing driver software means to say what? It is trying to install on your kernel, the kernel or the shell. Once it's installed, then you don't have to install again and again. Once I know this person is my uncle, son, so and so, your brain registers whenever you say, oh, he is my so and so person. So similarly, the computers also understands that, and this is the person. The same intelligence has to be brought to robotics to identify a person, identify a task, identify. So you're building intelligence to the robotics. The more and more and more you build intelligence, that's how you can handle the robotics very well. So we talked of, so basically, how do I start this, sir? You just go and study 8086, a basic processor Okay, if you want to do high end, if you want to low end micro robotics, you can just start with a microcontroller. Could be a small Arduino Uno will be sufficient for you to do a small basic robot with a stepper motor, just moving around, doing some task, pick and place. It could be these days you are getting small DIY, do it yourself kits, where you can start with that and you can build into this what I talked about, the processor. You can bring these processor to them, and could be the Raspberry Pi kit, which has got a processor, not the controller. So the Raspberry Pi is a mini computer, which can be used to have a Ethernet, the USB ports, could be even a Bluetooth. You can interface with the GPS, GSM, all those things you can build on application. Once you get confidence in a college, or the students gets confidence, even the faculty get confidence, you can keep on building, stack it one after the other. Oh, now I have done the motor, now I do the camera, now I have done the line follower, line path, now I can do some task. I can keep doing it one by one. And you can use it for industry, or for home appliances, or for any type of application you like. So now I can bring light, I can bring sound, I can bring sensors, I can bring heat, chemical, force, object proximity, physical orientation, position, magnetic field, electric field, resistance of a body. Now I talk of resistance of a body. So usually the human body has got some resistance. That's why when you get a shock, still you survive. Because why? The human body has got approximately up to 700 to 900 ohms, depends on the immunity. Usually the common man, the human body has got resistance. The resistance is nothing but your Ohm's law, which is what V is equal to I into R. So you have voltage and you have current. How does the current pass? The current passes through your body. The voltage is already available 230 volts. Still 900 ohms, still it has got a time to burn your resistance. If you still hold on for a long time, that's where you come across disaster. Most of the time you get a shock, but you don't die for a few minutes, because your resistance has capability to resist for the duration. But if duration is exceeded, or the voltage is too high and the resistance becomes like a fuse, the fuse may burn. Similarly, the body may burn at a high voltage kind of thing, or if you hold it for a long duration. And that's how this resistance comes to picture. These resistance also can be built for robotics to sense heat, temperature, cold, and these type of things. Now, so talking about this, we'll talk about a little bit about types of robots, how the robots are built. So far, I was talking about the robots, how it can be built. So these are all some of things which can be used as movable, which can be used as a tankers in a defense, or it can be used at home, or it can be used in a typical situation in the farming land. Or this on the left hand side, what you see is ultrasonic sensor, where you see here, these are the two. These are all also called as EYE. Basically, one can see and one can transmit and one can receive. Usually ultrasonic comes with two as well as single. In a single ultrasonic also, there are companies like Honeywell, they build this high-end ultrasonic sensors also, which has got a transmit and receive the same. But as for a college and for a faculties, I would recommend go for a ultrasonic which is less than 200 rupees. Yes, go ahead. Yes, sir. Any questions? Hello?
No,
Sir,
sir,
hello.
probably no. You can continue.
Oh, are you? I'm audible, sir. Are you able to listen me, sir?
Yes, yes,
Sir,
perfectly. Your voice is much clear.
sir, Vinayaka, sir. Sir,
Yes,
we
sir.
have one question for sir. How we, Rashmi Ranjan Mohapatra asking
No
the
problem,
question,
sir.
how
Yes,
we
sir.
check the resistance of human body?
How you?
How we check the resistance of human body?
How you can check there are some meters.
Sir.
Okay. There are some meters where you can check this thing. I don't know if you've heard of this earth measuring equipments. Basically, this earth in oil, ONGC, have you heard of this oil companies, right? Usually, these oil companies have this earth measuring equipments. Okay. Hello.
Okay, okay,
Hello.
sir. Thank you, sir.
There are some equipments where you can basically. Hello.
Sir.
So one more thing, I think you would have physically experienced, even if you get shocked, you don't die, right? For a few seconds. Yes, you experienced it.
Sir.
Most of us experience, but then physically, how do I survive? The body, again, I mentioned there is one more thing which you need to understand is from person to person, the resistance vary. Okay. These resistance are, see, there are two things. One is alternating current, another one is direct current. The direct current affects always on the bones. Okay. So if the same voltage, if I give DC, it will have a big impact. But in AC, it's alternating. So usually AC is always referred to skin. When I talk of skin, you talk of skin effect. Again, skin effect, R is equal to rho L by A. Probably you would have come across all these terminologies. Resistivity, always the current or the thing which always goes on the surface. On the surface, you have positive cycle and negative cycle. Whereas in DC, you don't have that. It directly hits the bone. Whereas in AC, it is always on the skin. So probably the high chances is you survive. Now coming back to the resistance, the body to body, the person to person, the resistance vary. The immunity varies. For a small kid, it could be different. For a person, I'm talking of an average person, like a boy who is around 28 to 50 years old. So the resistance can vary, depends on the immunity and depends on his body condition, because the body has got a lot of chemical properties in him by himself. So it's a long answer, but still I hope it's clear for you now, sir.
Yes, sir, it is clear. You can go ahead.
You can go ahead. Okay, right. So what I'm trying to bring is how you can build intelligence to robots and how you can take maximum utilization. Like I just talked about the power supply. Here, if you see the physical structure of the motor, we talked of motor, we talked of sensors, we talk of power supply. Power supply is a major issue because most of these robots are operated on battery. Now, these batteries are different types of batteries. One are lithium batteries or nickel cadmium batteries, or it could be powered up batteries. If you are powered up batteries with a wire, it can do certain tasks within the given limited area. It cannot move around for a long distance. If I want to move that for half a kilometer or 1 kilometer, the best part is battery. Now the battery is hazardous. As such, the battery has got more weightage. If you want to do the task for longer hours, you need to have battery. Again, the battery maintenance, the charging, discharging, a lot of things comes. Like as you keep on building, the complexity also increases. If it's a stationary robot, no issues. You can just power into the plug power supply and just keep running the robots. But if you want to move the robots, then the battery plays a predominant role. And suddenly battery gets drained also based on the load, and the current drawn is also more. So at that point of time, what happens? So you need to take care of the battery management circuit. There is some battery management circuit where when the current drops particular thing, now you need to get charged or you need to take action on it. I think some of the movies have demonstrated about that also. The movie is called Robot. So these are all something called co-robots or cobots or collaborative robots. Or these robots are becoming very important, and these are all growing in numbers. What are these cobots? They work together with the human to produce process, what they say in the longer kept. And these are all just like a similar kind of person where it can help you in industry. It could be a collaborative. These are all more flexible and easier to program. When I say easier to program, these robots are kind of like, I have set a program to count some numbers and suddenly I want the same robot to do some other task. At that time, these robots can be easily programmed. By using a simple microcontroller, you can just do this tasks. And some places it can replace the robots also. These are all called cobots. The bots are getting very popular. So these I just leave it to you, the productivity and the Boston and 30%, all those things you can read it out. So these are all cobots, how it looks like. These are all some of the pictures where it is used. But the beauty about these are all very precision in nature compared to human being. These are all very much precision how it is being programmed. And there are some industrial robots. Industrial robots, again, I'm talking about the same robots, different size, different form factors, different places. If I use it at home, it's called different. If I'm using on the field, it's different. If I'm using the industry, these are all industrial robots. But basically, the robots are same of nature. How you program, how you control, how you work around with this type of. The General Motors, probably all the most of the car manufacturers today, they are using robots. These are all stationary robots. Where the precision is more important. The good part why they use in the automobile industry is basically of safety reasons, because in the past there are many accidents may not be popped up on the newspapers or on the media, but in a machinery plant it is obvious in a given month or a given year there could be 5 to 6 incidents which are happening. It's not good. Suddenly a guy loses his hand or a leg. Of course you have incidents and all those things, but the predominantly the human values have some importance. Rather, I allow a robot to do the job, which are very critical and very sensitive, rather than human beings to monitor them and to give them tasks assigned and get things done. So you could have used CNC machines. Today there are CNC machines in BL, BHL, many places. They use the CNC meters to assemble the motors, and they pick and place, and they've predefined the nuts and bolts, and that picks up the nuts and bolts and it fixes the motor and it does by itself and it gives you. And there are a lot of automation going on. Earlier they used to call this manual automation, manual testing. I don't know if you heard of these terms, manual testing. There was a lot of job vacancies in manual testing. Over a period of time, it has come down. Now it's more of automation. So they take a machinery plant and they design this and they make it automation. Basically, where the manual testing is going on, they remove the manual testing and implement the automation. The automation gives you 100% results. So it gives you perfection. So this is talk about the industrial robots. And this, I'll just leave it to you, the 1973 first robot and all those things. This is the manipulator and end effector. What is manipulator? It's just like arm, human arm. So when I talk of human arm, where it can be precisely used, I'll tell you one application in a defense where an army person has to carry his bag. Let's say he's carrying a bag of his own things, could be his own luggage, and along with it he has to carry the tent. Probably he has to carry some telemetry gadgets. So now if you look at the weight, these weights are somewhere around 15 kgs to 20 kgs. Average weight of a human body, like, for in a defense kind of sector, it could be somewhere around 60 kgs to 70 kg a person weighs. But carrying a weight of 15 kgs on his back, you can probably walk for 1 kilometer, not beyond that. Maybe 2, maybe 3. But in a defense environment, if you are asked to walk for 10 kilometers, very, very, very difficult. At that time, what they use is, the suggestion is, you can fix it to your leg and to your arm and to your backpack. How does it work? You just press it, all the weight will transfer to the ground. So you have a little bit of movement and you can carry 20 kgs for even for 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers you can walk. So that way the human body will not be having too much of stress, or basically the body pain or the weight on your body. Basically the load is transferred to the ground. So that way you can easily walk around. So this is a very good application where any one of your college faculties can work on this and develop this, and you can give it. Also, usually it has been developed on the waist. On the waist to below, it is very easy. Waist and above, it is very difficult to control the arm. So there, predominantly, again, we are talking of stepper motors. You are talking of mechanical gadgets where you can press it and you can just ease out the load. Basically, those load has to be transferred to the ground. So this is one area where you can start working on it. I'm just throwing some application here. Now, on the other hand, you are talking of end effectors. These are basically, again, a type of manipulators fixed. You can see the picture over there, and it's a palm or a finger, which I was talking about, the arrangement of a human arm. So basically, this can be used in a different application for different tasks. So then there is a locomotive device, controller, the sensors. So these are all basically used in the power plants like electric, hydraulic, pneumatic controls. So pneumatic control is basically a big area of scope. So when I'm talking all these things about robotics, you can see the scope of robotics in coming days, how it can predominantly play a major role in coming days, how it can help the human life or human style of living. So the controllers, so these are all digital computers with hardware and software, which can control the robots. So with the assigned task, again, it goes back to manipulator and effectors. So the next one is sensors. I think we talked enough about sensors. The sense organs. The sense organs, which I'm talking, this is one area in the sensors, basically MEMS. So the mechanical electronic has got a lot of scope in coming days. What are these scopes? Like it could be a pressure, it could be air, it could be light, it could be fire, it could be some gaseous things, or it could be some kind of sensors where it could be pressure, it could be lot of sensors. Still we are not yet come across. We have yet to do some research on those areas. Some of them are available. I don't deny it. They are available, but still it is not sufficient to build a kind of robot what we are expecting in the today's world. Like a human body has got multiple things. Like, you want to try to replicate on the robot, and the sensors plays a major role. If the sensor doesn't work properly, the robots cannot do anything. So these sensors, end of the day, these are all kind of actuators or a transducer which converts one form of energy to another form. Say suppose I have a sensor, it can test heat, or it can just a simple thermometer, temperature. So the similar kind of things are available in the market where it can sense the temperature and it gives you basically a divider network. That's all it is, 2 resistors. So basically based on the resistance, when the temperature reaches, now you have thermistors. Thermistors have 2 types. One is PTC and NTC. What is NTC? NTC is negative temperature coefficient. Another is positive temperature coefficient. Basically, it again depends on 2 resistors. The object what you use a sensor is put temperature, heat increases, the resistance varies, and the bottom side your resistors, and the output, what you get, the voltage on the top, it gets divided by 2, or it can be a factor of it, and that voltage will determine what it is. Now that can be fed to your ADC. ADC is analog to digital converter. The life is always analog, and any part of it, usually we are heading towards analog. There were period where industry started with analog, and for 40 years we predominantly digital ruled the whole industry. So it was called digital era, rather I can say. In after 2021 or 22, we can see the analog era. Why we are called analog? Because we are moving towards more towards analog. You cannot have a robot to be a digital in nature. Yes, today it is in digital nature, but tomorrow it should not be in digital nature. It should be in analog in nature. Why it should be analog in nature? So it is like a sunrise and sunset, sunrises and sunsets. Basically, what do you mean by it? The robot has to accordingly to map to your lifestyle. Basically, to your lifestyle. You get up in the morning and sleep in the night. Similarly, robots has to be activated in the morning, and it has to, go back or reset, or it has to go back in the night. Basically, I'm talking of home cleaner robots. Basically, you want the robot to do it in the day, not in the night, because of the noise and whatever it may be, to monitor it. At that time, what happens? So now the robots are also getting tuned to the analog in nature with respect to time. Whenever you put a time, if it's constant, it is in digital in nature. The life is not constant. You cannot eat the same food every day. You cannot do the same activity every day. You cannot do all the stuff every day the same. It is always analog in nature. Life is always analog. Always analog. So moving forward, we expect robots also to move towards analog nature. Why? There are two reasons for it. One, initially when we started electronics, we started to operate in 230 volts. Those days, the radios, what we call the valve radios, were all operating in 230 volts. Later on, we moved slowly to 24 volts. These 24 volts are all operating in PLCs. If somebody have worked in SCADA or PLC, even today they work on 24 volts. Now from 24 volts, we migrated to 5 volts. What are the 5 volts? All the microcontroller, all the ICs today, what you see in the lab, are all predominantly 5 volts. Even the transistors, what we are operating is also in 5 volts only. So now we are moving to 2.5, where you have SOC, FPGAs are all operating at 1.8 volts. Now the question comes, when you are moving towards 1.8 volt, which one is high, which one is low? The question mark comes. In a 5 volts, 0 to 5 volts, 0 means off, 5 volts means 1, or 0 means 0, 5 volts mean 1. That's what we call in binary. But in anything about 3.5 volts or 3.7 or close to 4 volts, we consider as 1, because you have a scale middle. The middle is 2.5. Anything above 2.5, we scale it 3.5 or 4 and above, we consider that to be high. So what we do, basically we are using a flip-flop or a latch. So basically it is not a flip-flop. Flip-flop is always edge trigger, and latch is always a slow. Basically, even if you cross 3.5, automatically you get latched to 5 volts. These are all level triggers ICs which are available in the market. When it crosses, it goes. Now it is very clear in 5 volts. What about 1.8 volts? 1.8 divided by 2 is 0.9. Even 0.9 is 0. For digital world, even 0.9 is 0. Even 1.8 is also 0. Now how do I divide? Now the 1.8 is subjected to analog in nature, no more digital. It is no more in digital. Why 1.8 volts? Because you want all the gadgets to operate at very, very less voltage, so that it can be controlled to your battery. So the 230 volts is gone, that era is gone. So you want to control everything, the robots and all these things has to have. So what is that major criteria? Area, time, and space. What do you mean by that? Power, basically. The power is very, very critical in power. In the power, what are things you need? One is time. So the time taken to execute one thing, it has to be very less time. And the space, I can't have a battery of 1 kg on a robot. It has to be very, very, very less space. It has to take very less space. Assume you think of your mobile phones. What is the battery backup? You have probably 8 hours, 10 hours. Think of a battery which I want to charge it 1 week or 10 days. You will be certainly happy. Why? Once in 10 days, if I charge, I'm happy. So how does it consume more? When you start running some video or some application, the power is going to draw. Basically, you're talking of current. The storage of current is very, very critical. But I want a small battery, but I want long life shell. Long life shell. So these batteries have a lifetime. Now, how does it work? So we covered the area, space, and power. At that time, what I want is I want less power. When I say less power, again, the less voltage predominantly converts to less current, And there is an equation between voltage and current. Always, whenever you increase with 10%, there is a calculation for every rise in voltage, what will be the current? For every rise in current, what will be the voltage? Okay, so we don't want to get into too much of technical stuff, but we'll just precise fix it how the generation will go from 5 volts to 1.8, moving towards we are going to SOC. SOC means system on a chip. When you saw system on a chip, so you want a single chip. I don't know if you remember 20 years back, there used to be a lot of watches with 20 rupees, 30 rupees. These are all SOC based chips. So basically a digital watch, which you call digital watch, where you used to have a timer, you can set the timer, you can have a beep, and it will have a digital clock, which could be a OLED or a STN LCD kind of a small one. I don't know if you remember those. Today it's not there. So those are the area. Again, we are back. So at that time, it was a big boom. Everybody used to replace, and they used to have all kinds of watches. I don't know if you've seen. So those type of ASICs, what you call application specific integrated chip. These are all chips which consumes 1.8 volts, very, very less voltage, but predominantly very good performance, very good performance. Even today in your calculator, whatever you use at your home or in office or a college, the small calculators have all got this SOC. Similarly, if you have used a LCD at college or school, the LCD is also having a backside SOC. SOC means system on a chip. It is integrated everything. It doesn't have any pins, but it is all wired. We call number of wires. So we can talk in detail if you have time. At some point in time, we'll discuss this in detail. How the SOC. If you are more interested, we can talk about it in later part. Even the sensors, what we talk, the sensors are also should be predominantly very, very, very less. If you talk of any sensors, could be a strain gauge or stress gauge, or probably a strain gauge. I did take an example of a strain gauge which is used in a load cell of a lorry to weight, or it could be in a jewel shop where you use this to weigh your gold. These are all uses strain gauge. The strain gauge produces very, very millivolts. It produces in millivolts. These millivolts are taken to ADC, and then it is being increased or boosted to 5 volts, and that is converted to digital, and the digital is taken into controller, and then you have a lookup table. The lookup table will tell for this many millivolts, this is the gram. So whatever, it could be in grams or kgs or in tons, how you define in the program. So that's how you do the calculation in a lookup table. So these sensors will always generate in millivolts to volts. And as much as you keep it low, the power consumption is low, because you need to power up on the other side the microcontroller to capture the sensor signals. So predominantly we are moving towards analog. What I mean to say is we are moving towards analog in nature. Similarly, there are sensors like proximity, torque, velocity, force, and temperature. So these are all some things about sensors. So the robot functions, actions, and examples. These are all sense, think, and act. So what is the sense? It has to detect. What it has to detect? It has to detect a person is standing, the vision, or it has to detect an object. It has to detect something else, what you define. Then they detect the bone tissue, not the soft tissue scanners. When you're talking of these type of things, a sonar is point. I think you have a face recognition. I think take some points and they map it and they come up with a picture. With the picture, it always goes back and it looks at the same picture and it maps to it. And if it maps, it gives a permission. Same thing. There is a touch. What you have, the finger touch. There are two types of things. One is capacitive. Another one is resistive. So the capacitive is nothing but you have two layers. When you press based on your pressure, these are all called counts. Number of counts. You can increase it or decrease it. When you say increase the same thing, you can use it in your cell phone. So in the cell phone also you have the sensitivity. These are all capacitive sense in nature. But there are something which comes with resistive in nature also. We'll talk about capacity. The capacity, what happens, these are all called counts. 200 counts, 100 counts. So you don't even touch the mobile. You come a little bit lift up also, still it will sense. There are some mobiles where you can decrease it to 50 counts or 10 counts, where you need to press it very hard. Even though it is a 10 cents, still you need to press it hard. These are all counts. It goes with 10, 20, 30 multiples to 200. And it can sense even up to distance of 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters at a distance. You just bring the finger. You don't even have to touch the object. Still it will sense based on the counts. These are all called capacitive touch sensors. Capacitive touch sensors. So these things you can see it in mostly in ATMs. The count is very, very less. You need to press it very hard. Even though it is capacitive in touch, those things you need to press it very hard. And the mobile, you just touch it, it will open. But in ATMs, you need to intentionally they have put it because they want to have the fingerprint. If something goes wrong, so they want to capture the fingerprint who has operated. I don't know, the technology is still available in all ATMs, but there is a reason behind why they made it. So because you press it very hard, your finger has got a print impression. At some point, after something goes wrong, they can take the fingerprints for analysis and say this person is only handled this and he has not got the payment, and they can take action whatever they want. That's the secondary part. The majorly the intention behind is that. So these are all detective and confirmation positioning, limbs, stepper motor feedback. So PLC comes in, and the feedback is again open loop system or closed systems. So predominantly in education, we have seen the closed systems, closed loop systems. Even in industry, we prefer closed loop systems. Why we prefer closed loop systems? Because of more of accuracy. In the control systems, what you have seen, same control systems also comes into robotics. Because the task is completed or not, how do you know? The robot itself has to confirm, yes, I have completed that. The task has to complete and it has to go back to its main computer and say, yes, it has been completed. If it is not completed, it has to throw an error. So it has to be predominantly a closed loop system. So the control system also comes to the picture. Now, thinking of the PC and the controller programming trigger input, I talked about this, how the interrupt works, how the program, the triggering inputs are what? Again, it could be any kind of sensor or it could trigger by itself. How it can trigger? You can set an alarm. You can set an alarm to a robot and say, at 4 o'clock, I want a cup of coffee. Okay. At time, it triggers automatically and it goes to the kitchen. It brings you the coffee. The task is complete. So these are all stored programs. These are all called stored programs. Basically, these are all timer-based programs. How the timer works? In the timer, you can just take a counter. A simple application, you can write a program in a counter. Application with a counter, and you just keep a count and stick to your time. Or you can buy a RTC, real-time clock. So Dallas has got a real-time clock. There are many chipsets available in the real world market. It's all less than 100 rupees. Buy a RTC, it comes with the chip, and that has a battery backup. Those days we used to use SnapHat and CapHat. The SnapHat is with battery and one without battery. There are different types of RTGs with non-volatile memory, because my specialty is in the non-volatile memory. Anyway, we'll not get into the details of it, but the real-time clocks are available, which is very low cost. You can plug into that. You can have a timing-based applications, any timing application. It could be a motor run in a farm, in a village where you have a farmland, and I want watering to be done at every 4 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and I have a robot which can go around and see whatever you want, temperature, or it could be the humidity, or it could be even the soil, and it can come back to the shed, or it can do some tasks. Coming days, you don't know, in next 20 years, 30 years, these are all things which can be used to do plantation, watering, plucking. A lot of things can be done, and even today there are some research going on the leaf. I think already it's available. You look at a leaf and you just have probe a camera on it, and it will tell you what type of plant it is, what is the life shell of it is, what it needs, what it doesn't need, so how it, what is the period of it. All those things, statistics already plugged in, and there are some cameras already available with some softwares available, and these things can be plugged into robots, and robots can maintain if there is suddenly some disease which has happened to a plant, and these things can predominantly play a major role in bringing back those things to the farmer, and keep him on alert so that he can safeguard his farmland with particular plant to be affected and not to spread to other plants. And that's what he says, the obey instruction with the previous one. So with the stored program, with the memory. Act. So what do you mean by act? So act immediately, or you want to act it slowly. Again, it is a call of a function. How you want to call a function. I want this to happen after 10 minutes, not immediately. I want to happen this after 1 year. Again, it's a timing based. You can decide on it. Now, activators. Activators is a term where, again, it's a one form to another form. There are many activators and transducers. These are again part of sensors. As I mentioned, load cell, stepper motors, pneumatic, hydraulic. These are all part of activators only. So it can be used for a leg muscle for walking. What I mentioned you in the defense. This is what he talks about here. The flex leg muscle. Probably a handicap. I think today we are seeing some of the people are being implanted with these type of artificial legs. I think predominantly now we are seeing everywhere across the globe, many people are using it, the leg and hand movement, they're doing it very well. And this is again a part of robotics only. You can call it an arm robot or a leg robot. And these can be used for surgeons to do some surgeries. Already they have been done some surgeries successfully with the 5G technology, and they have done it successfully across the globe. 5G is again a real time, so more fast, more speed, more memory. So at the same time, I can simultaneously see from here what's happening there. It could be alive, and having these robots can do operations. In coming days, you can see predominantly robots. And today, you look at the medical field, how it has gone. The days have gone where people, if you go to any doctor, clinic, shop, they used to hold your hand and take the breath count and used to tell, okay, these are the symptoms. Today, the doctor doesn't even take a stethoscope to test you. He just gives you a laundry list. Go and get these tests done. What are these tests? Blood samples, X-ray, scanning, all those things. Based on the reports, he gives you tablets. Done. The same thing robots can do even much better. It even diagnoses. In coming slides, you can see how the robots, different type of robots, which can be I think in the morning session, sir had shown about you the very nano robots, which can be sent inside the body and can see and diagnose. Already there are some hernia operations. Some of the operations have been successfully done, and there are some needles with the camera which goes inside and it can kill some of the stones. There are some diseases and where it's been successfully been demonstrated, and they are continuing to do that. Anyway, so there are generally 5 types of robots: teleoperated robots, augmented robots, autonomous robot, teleoperated robots. So what are these robots? Again, these are all having a different task and different challenges in the real-time world. And it has been categorized based on their activity. So far, any questions or any doubts, or is it okay to continue?
Yeah, sir, it is okay to continue.
It's okay to continue. Okay.
My suggestion.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
you can finish
Yes.
all the content. After that, in the end, you can ask any questions and answers regarding that one. It's better.
No problem, sir. No problem. No problem. I just wanted to see because it's a one-way traffic. I'm going from one side to other side.
Yeah.
Just wanted to interrupt and ask if there is any this thing there.
We are also checking chat box, sir. Only one person only asking question and answers. So you can answer them in the end of the session, sir. No problem.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir. No problem. So as I mentioned, these robots, probably these are all C, C++. Today we have many softwares. It is not C, C++. There are a lot of libraries are there. If you go to Arduino, or it could be any of these things. Today there are standard libraries available, standard examples available, standard. What you need is little bit of modification here and there. Understand the flow. You can build your own robots. Not a big deal. Only thing is with a low cost also you can do it. If you want to do complex things, you may have to use complex robots with heavy stuff. So what is ROS? ROS is real-time operating systems. So the real-time operating systems could be anything else. Real-time operating systems these days people are migrating from Windows to Linux. Earlier days we had DOS prompt. You can build your own also. It's not that a big deal. You have to depend on any of these things. You can build your own package and you can just do it. If you know C and if you know C++ or Python, you can create your own softwares and you can give certain tasks and you do it. And these computer science people are excellent in doing that, and I'm hoping that these people can come forward, merge with electronics people and mechanical people to build these type of things in the college level, not at this thing. At college level, you can build, have your thoughts, and faculties can shake their hands and join together and make these type of things. So that could be really good if something happens. And there are some areas like biology, where robots are most often modeled for nature. These are all called beam robots. What you call beam robots look like remarkably like insects. I think you have seen some of the robots with the insects with a build of mechanically. These are like a leg of insects, and where you have small cameras which are used to spying certain things. These are all with memory processed, and this can come with Wi-Fi or with the Bluetooth. Any of these things you can do it. Not that you have to do wired only, but the area is very limited. You cannot have these bees to go 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers. It has to be surface, has to be less than a kilometer or probably a few meters, a few centimeters kind of, and depends on the frequency. Any of these things you can use ZigBee, you can use UWB, ultra wideband, you can use RF, where RF you can have 6 to 7 feet. It depends on what kind of model you are picking up and you are choosing. Then of course you have the sources can be anything. I talked about the battery. And you can have a solar panel on top of the robots, or some robots built into solar, where when it is in the sun, you can take the power from the solar, and you can take the energy from it, and you can store it in battery, and those batteries can be used in the night times or do some type of typical tasks. So that is one advantage you can start thinking about in that direction also. Still, the lot of activities are going on. When it comes to a mechanical thing, the structure, the power, actuation, sensing, manipulation, locomotion, these are all real challenges of the structure also, how it has to be structured, because you are replicating a human body, the bones, activators, the muscle, joints, and some degree of freedom. So degree of freedom is my finger cannot do 360, but in a computers or in a robots, you can still do 360. It's really amazing, and you can still continue to do it. But this is a big challenge for mechanical and electronics to hold that. And you need to know at what degree your finger is. You cannot have 270 degree and do a task at 0 degree. No, it has to look at the position which degree it is, and it has to keep on monitoring it. There are a lot of challenges with the mechanical as well as in electronics. So these power requirements, usually the robots will have typically from 3 volts to 24 volts. Anything with 3 volts, it again turns out to be analog in nature. Anything in 24 volts in nature above 5 volts, it can be digital, 0 or 1s. So these motors can be, even there are some DC motors available along with servo motors and stepper motors. DC motors also do a predominant very good job. Just like if you don't have a DC motor, a small DC motor, you can, if you find a old tape records, you can pull out a DC motor which operates in 5 volts. They're extremely good. Those motors can be used for building your robots. So those are all DC motors. Operates anywhere between 3 volts to 5 volts. And predominantly very fast, but you need to put some resistors or something, put a brake and control, and have some gears, sun gears, or whatever gears you call. You have to put gears to bring down the speed. And actuation, basically in the muzzle and robot parts, it's really challenging. The mechanics and grippers, vacuum grippers, general purpose. When you say vacuum grippers, you want to pick a thing. So basically, predominantly, if you use a vacuum grippers, it will be the result will be very good, because the vacuums have the high pressure. It could be, again, we are talking of pneumatics, where with the high pressure you can pick the object and you can just release it and it can drop it at particular this thing. So these are all fixed robots which are used in a car manufacturing plant. You can see a lot of robots doing their job independent, and no human intervention is required. And you just give the task, it keeps completing one by one. So these are all humanoid robots. I think you would have heard of Sophia, Atlas, all these things. There could be a lot of Sophias coming in coming days. You can see a lot of Sophias. The problem is these Sophias have more intelligence than what we thought. Like, today the robots are in different form fit factor. If you go to Google, there is annotation where I'm talking, can capture the words. So same thing can be built into robots. And what I'm talking, it can understand it. You can go to Google and you can search and you can ask, is this, because the problem with the Google or these type of things is, if I ask you one question, there could be multiple answers. The picking is very, very difficult. So then the robots have a challenge to make a decision. Is he talking in this sense? I am going to dash. What is this dash? Robot has to digest. Is he going to office? Is he going to hotel? Or is he going to theater? I'll be coming back. So the robots has to gauge, like, what time. Usually, what is his time predominantly is coming from his. He has to look back to his history, and then he has to calculate. Until you don't finish the sentence, the robot has to ask a question: what time are you coming? So then you may have to respond to it and give the precise time. If you are not coming, if you are not maintaining the time, the robot will do its task. So that's again a headache. So these are all challenges which over a period of time, I think it will be taken over with a precise thing. Means there could be some of the options where it can be leeway. What I say is there could be a mobile phone where you can send a message to a robot saying, hey, just like your wife, like, I'm coming late by 7:30 or 7:45. So she's alert. Or you are at the door, I'm coming late. I don't know what time I'm there. So you be active so that you can open the door or whatever you want to do the activities. Probably a kitchen, or it could be have food, the late night, whatever you want to have the human robots to do for yourself. But there are challenges. The more intelligence you build, that is also a danger part of it. Less is always good, but the human nature, if you're building more and more intelligence, it should not happen the robots take over humans. So that's a big threat in this industry. There are yes and no's on this. So this is Sophia. I think you would have seen most of it in the morning session also. Similar to that, these are all robots which can be used at home appliances for cleaning or any of your activities. And then you have teleoperated robots, which are used for teleoperated. I think it's already there, teleoperated. We are not aware of it. If you ask, like, your cell phone answers today, it's COVID. Like, there are some self-operated instructions which comes to you, right? Close your mask, face, all those things. Similarly, there could be programmed robots which can be used in the call centers. Press one to do this, press two to do this. All these things can be done with the robots. Or it can divert those calls. If it's very important, it can drive to the concerned level 2 or level 3, whatever it is. So there are some drones. I think probably they used in landmines to detect what they call in the battlefield. Also, basically these are all again the magnetic in nature. So these are all metal objects which can detect. If there is an object, it will detect and give the signals to the concerned person. So these are all augmented robots which enhance human capabilities, replace the human. This is self-explanatory. So this is a eco-skeleton which you use to lift heavy weights. Basically, again, it goes back. If you see this arm right here, if you see the arm here, so he's taking some weight and it can be transferred to the leg. All these type of activities can be done in coming days. So there are a lot of activity going on robots. The many companies are working on robots. Probably everybody want to have a less human intervention. So the decision making is very easy for the bosses. Like, do what I say. So this is a common term in MNC companies or in most of the industries. I don't know if you have worked. So what I have seen in the past also, so the only common word which we see in MNC companies also, they say, do what I say. Sir, I want to do this. No, 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 no. Don't put your thoughts into it. Do what we say. That's all it is. So basically, they're expecting a human rover there. Probably I would prefer a robot to do that job. Because if you bring the intelligence to it, yes, it is good, but that will disrupt my system. What is it? Sir, instead of doing this, why don't you do this? Yes, there is a system already in place which is doing this job. If you disrupt, the whole mechanism can change. The whole life cycle can get changed. So most of the industries doesn't want to get disrupt. They don't want to change the system. As long as it affects a small change in an industry can bring a huge loss, huge loss. I don't want to mention one company. Basically, this automotive company engineer was very much technically sounded. He wanted to bring some change, but the management rejected it. But he said these are advantages. But he says, yes, you are bringing advantages. It's so nice. It's good. You are intelligent, but that will disrupt my system because they have put a lot of money in media, in advertisement, a lot of stuff. But these one small thing without notice or without this thing, that could be a version 2 or version 3, but they don't want those things. So again, he was put back on the backseat. All politics there. Anyway, we don't want to get into that, but these things in very much predominant robots are preferred. So coming back to educational robots, the educational robots predominantly there is one company in Philippines. So they did it 10 years back itself. So what we are doing these webinars for all the students, they did it 10 years back. So what they did is they had a LCD kind of screen with a small system, where in a classroom, basically, a teacher is teaching, and suddenly two students are absent for a fever or for a death case, whatever, they can record, they can bring it back to home, they give it to colleague, and they can have the lively experience. That is number one. Number second, there are small kids who want to practice the language or a song or could be some activity that can be recorded and it can be repeated. On the other hand, you have some lively examples in the classroom. Like, there is a forest where lion is coming. So these LEDs will have pre-recorded with a small SanDisk memory card chip where it is be programmed for class 1 to class 10. So you can have lively experience with those type of videos. You don't have to imagine, you can literally see this is how it is. You cannot take the kids to the forest, rather you can bring the forest in your screen. So that's how they did it. So they had a big expectation. This company was INEC. Even I visited this company also a long time back. So they had a very good vision, but unfortunately that didn't take off very much. But that predominantly they sold it in Philippines to some extent. But what they thought, they wanted to take it to worldwide. But by then these computers have taken predominantly a major role, and they have much better stuff than that. But their intention was not to give internet to the kids. So the kids will go to the different websites and they get started and stuff. They want to focus them and bring it to the subject level only. So that could be a lively experience in classroom as well as at home. and that can be a report also to the parents, where parents can look at that and they can give the feedback to those systems, and those systems, they don't have to carry any textbooks, they don't have to carry any notebooks. So the single gadget will do all your jobs. It has a mic, it has a recording, it has a Wi-Fi, it has got a lot of applications. So these things, I can't call that a robot. Those days they call it as a gadget. Today these gadgets having some intelligence, again extra intelligence, move around all those things, it can be called as education robots. So again and again we are coming back with those intelligence, we are building these type of hard equipments. Yes. Yes. So these are all generic robots which you have seen in many places. And this is a medicine robot which I was talking. These are all which can be used in tumors. Probably there could be a lot of developments in nano robots. It can be in miniature in size and it can do pretty much very small jobs. Probably there is a pipe where you have some oil leakage or it could be stuck. You can use these type of robots to go inside, detect some of these things, and give the feedback to them, or it can do some task or do some cleaning job or do some other tasks. It could be in a body or it could be in a tank or it could be in a pipe or it could be any other environment where people cannot enter into. It could be a mine, it could be some kind of critical applications. It can use this type of um, so then you have household robots which is used for cleaning, serving you all the time. And this is a company it's already been there in the market. There are a lot of Japanese companies already invested a lot of time in these type of robots. So there are some software robots also, computer program, autonomous means independent, and there will be a virtual task also. And these are all search engine boards, web crawlers. A lot of activities are going on this type of area. And there is some chat box. Chat box, I talked about Amazon for uh, the machine-to-machine interface, where it started chatting each other. So gave some examples there also. So these are all something which neural network, artificial intelligence. There are some neural chipsets which Toshiba developed long time back. At that time they blocked it for some reasons. Today now again predominant the whole world is looking towards that. So probably a lot of work is going on that neural chipsets. These are all called neural chipsets, which Toshiba started working way back. So I don't know how far other companies are working on, but I'm sure there are many more companies who are working in these areas to bring flexi PCBs. Flexi PCBs already in the market, which can be embedded in your body. In coming days, you don't have to carry your identity. Those identities can be built in your body with the chipsets, where it can carry the complete database. And already in Israel, if you go, you don't have to carry a passport if you're a resident of Israel. You just enter the airport. You have your fingerprint, iris with the eye detection, and with your facial recognition and with your fingers, it will always allow. You have separate lane for them, and they can just walk in. So you don't have to go through the check-in process. So those things are already been coming in place. And what you need to do is you need to build all this intelligence into one box and make it a really intelligent kind of a Sophia or Atlas or somebody else, giving it different names. So the more intelligence you are trying to build for robotics. As I said, you build more sensors. So that's all it calls for. So you have more sensors and more sensors. Of course, aesthetics makes a big impact. So the mechanical stuff plays a major role. Even bringing those things in a small miniature in size and moving these type of motors within that mechanical body is also a big challenge. So the overall view and the outlook, I just leave it to you for the reading sake. I want you to go through this. So today we are talking more of robots. Can be used in manufacturing, logistics, home, travel, healthcare. These are all upcoming robots which can be used. So this is the aspect of life. This is how coming days already as such we have isolated ourselves. In a nutshell, in conclusion, what I can say is robots are working for the people. Probably we have built the robots and it will be working for us in the industries, factories, warehouses, laboratories. Useful in many ways. It can boost the economy because of the business models which is efficient today. We are talking of more precision. If you want to compete, today morning a minister was talking about it. So if you want to export more rather than import, so as such we are importing. We are a country where we import a lot in billion. but our export is not that, not even 20% in electronics. It's predominantly very less. If you want to do more and more, could be not only electronics, even the farming sector, any sector. So the precision, the accuracy, the efficiency, the competence level, the quality, lot of things comes into picture. Somewhere we are falling in this category. That is where we are not able to meet their expectations. That's where we are not able to market ourselves in the international market. So those things can be bought under robotics. The robotics can give that efficiency, accuracy, quality, all those things can be made through this. And that will be a key factor for us to boost the economy and have an export sector growing much bigger in size in coming days. But these things can be done in much faster, and jobs can be very, very faster than human with more accuracy. Precision can be there. Probably the people who are going to lose the jobs can create the robots to replace their jobs. That's how I look at it. And there are challenges, quite interesting, but still the robots will be very popular, and there are more companies to come, multiple roles to play. As I mentioned in the PPT, there are different types of robots. If all the robots not be the same, one could be stationary. I conclude my session here. I think the time what was given is till 4. I think I have taken 4 o'clock. Now I open up session for Q&A,
Yes,
question and
sir.
answers.
You are exactly taken 1.5
So,
hours, sir. You are
please,
taken started from 2:30 and exactly ended at 4 o'clock, sir. Thank you. So some participants are asking questions, sir.
yeah,
Rashmi Ranjan
welcome, sir.
Mohapatra, they are asking some questions regarding that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Rashmi Ranjan Mohapatra, can you directly ask
Please
the
go ahead.
question? You can enable mic and you can ask directly the question to Sir Vinayak Babu, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. Is there any robots for packaging line? Actually, we are in manufacturing industry. So aluminum manufacturing industry, sheet and metal. So,
Okay.
so any robots that are used in packaging of the sheets and coils firms?
You don't need a robot for doing that. You can just have a simple machine to do that. See, the robot and a machine has got too many different aspects of it, because the robot can do multiple tasks. Okay, in your case, when you're talking of aluminum manufacturing plant where you want to have a pick and place and make the packaging, if I'm right, correct? You want to do this the job, fixed job, correct?
No, sir. There are so many repeated jobs. Suppose there are some coils. So the coils we want to pack. So in a daily basis, there are 100 number of coils, same size and shape, packing. So so many manpowers are there. So to reduce the manpower and all the repetitive jobs, we want to make a robotic action so that it will be helpful.
You can do it. You can do it.
Okay.
And you can do it. Sir. What you need to do is you need to define the problem. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, one more thing, sir. One more.
Hello.
One more thing. In this presentation, there is an intersection point. So that red color, what is that meaning? Just in the presentation, bottom, second slide from the bottom.
One second, let me open the presentation.
No,
1 second.
No problem.
What is that second line? Huh? There is nothing. There's only a date which is there. That's all. I just put the date. Nothing else.
No, sir. No.
Nothing else. I just put the date there.
There is two section. There is two circle. And in between there is a red color is the intersection point. What is that meaning? What is the intersection point? From the bottom to second slide or third slide, I also.
Got it. See, one thing.
Can you elaborate, sir? Can you actually?
Okay.
What is the intersection point?
Ask you
a very good
question.
section.
I not asking. I I'll just tell you. In a human body, you have left brain and right brain, correct? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Sir, in a human body, we have a brain. The brain has got left brain and right brain, correct?
Yes, yes, right.
Hello?
Yes, sir. I am audible, sir.
Similarly, in computer, we have called U pipe. Similarly, in a computer also, in the processor, you are called U pipe and V pipe. There are two sections. Whenever it does this, there is something called U. U means alphabet U. There is something called V. So what they have done is, in the computer also, they built a similar system of the human body. The U pipe will be working. Suddenly, there is some load. The U pipe will transfer to V pipe. Then there is something called cache memory in the top and bottom. The cache memory, what it does is basically whatever you open in the website, the temporary all those things will be kept in cache. That's why whenever you open any system, immediately open it will come up. But if you want to open some 1 week or 10 days back what you've done, it takes a little bit of time because it has to process, it has to take it. Then there is something called hardware accelerator. This hardware accelerator comes into picture whenever the process time is heat. That's why you see the computer gets heated up. Similarly, your brain also gets heated up when you get too much of task, when you are under stress. Now here, what is this red color is nothing but the artificial intelligence between the two steps. Okay. So what I mean to say is there are two tasks which are being. So if you are reading this 8086 of the processor, it can do multiple tasks. When the task is completed, there is something called fetch, detect. Okay. When you are fetching, decoding and execution. When you are fetching and executing itself, it takes another fetching also. Even our brain works similar way. Similarly, here what we are showing is that is artificial intelligence robots. What it actually does in coming days, like I'm talking to you, at the same time some task is going on. Let's say very simple example, I will tell you, you are riding a bike. Initially, when you're riding a bike, your focus is totally on the bike. When over a period of time, 10 years, you ride the bike without your, that is subconscious memory. Without your, same way, the robots, what we expect is, if it is doing some task, at the same time, I give some other task to the robot has to do the task. So that's a red area where we have kept as a gray area, where it has to take artificial intelligence robots, where it has to take some of the thing. Now we are given a task, at the same time I give one more task is given.
Yeah. Sir, one more question. Any example of collaborative robots? I am having a lot of.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Collaborative robot. Collaborative robot.
Yes, please.
Collaborative robot.
Yeah, you can, sir. Like I didn't get you. Can you elaborate a little bit what you mean by collaborative robot?
Your voice is not audible.
So you want to have some kind of a tie-up and do some activity on the robots?
Yes, sir. Exactly. I want to know about collaborative robot. What can you explain, sir? More some little insight about the collaborative robot.
This collaborative robot is something like there are multiple robots which help each other. Like, one robot is working, suddenly some task, and suddenly it failed at some point of time to execute. There is some error which occurred. Then there is another robot which can help that. The terminologies, let's say. See, the only thing is that we can call 101 terminologies, but bottom line is what you need to understand how this is being made, how it is being executed, what it does, what it can be done. Just, in your house also you have some name, there is some nickname, industry there is some nickname, there are different names, the robots are the same. The collaborative is nothing but two more multiple robots which help each other, basically.
Okay. But the session is, sir, very nice. Today morning session, there is a huge difference between morning session and the second session. I really appreciate the excellent presentation and well articulated things. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
And one more thing, sir. Hello.
Tell me, sir. Tell me. No issue.
Sir, we are hardly using in robots. In robots, what we are seeing is only 20 to 30 sensors. That's all, including camera and all those things. But what I'm talking is 56 lakh sensors a human body carries. Can you believe it? Your human body carries 56 lakh sensors. See, I take a needle, I pin it at the leg, still you'll be able to sense. I pin it at the hip, at the neck. Wherever I pin, you'll be able to. See, you can imagine the kind of sensors the skin has.
Yes,
we are trying to replicate robots, means you need to build so many sensors. Then you can create it. Big deal. That's it.
Yes. Sir, kindly share this presentation so that we can also, because not everything you can.
Yeah.
Very good session.
See, rather than presentation, my talks, see, some of the talks what I've given is not there in the presentation. Even on your face, if I look at in your face, there are 80,000 bacteria living. These bacteria are also, I can go in detail how the bacteria and the robots and how the computers, we can correlate all these things, but we have constraint on the time. Like how the bacteria, there are some good bacteria and bad bacteria in your body, correct?
Yes.
Similarly, you can create the similar kind of stuff to balance the robots. Similar stuff you can create in robots to balance itself. Now it is not possible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great, sir. Great session. Great insight.
So too many things goes into it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Welcome,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you very
So
much.
any more questions, ma'am? Any more questions, sir? Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Sir, any more questions?
Sir, I'm Shilpa here.
Somebody else? Yes, madam.
Sir, actually, I want your kind suggestion with regard to our like infrastructure availability at our colleges. How can we start up like a small robots? What you suggested in the beginning of the session to make our students to build as small as possible to their level. So, what suggestion you can give us, sir?
Yeah, you can do it. Just take one stepper motor. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know. You have 8086 syllabus in your this thing.
Yes, sir. We have advanced microprocessor in 6th semester as elective subject.
Super, super. Make a tray, put 8086 trainer kit on it. Okay. Put stepper motor on it. Okay.
Okay.
You can do two things. One, the processor can do multiple things. Whereas microcontroller, it can do only specific task. I told you, right? Make this processor as a brain. 80, see, whatever you're talking about, 486, 586 Pro, all these things is come from 8086 only. Okay. Take 8086, the basic stuff. Okay. On the basic stuff, you have some flash memory. Okay. So even in 8086, if you want to do that, you can go to DOS prompt in your computer. It's a normal computer. You can go to DOS prompt. You put a question mark there. You can get all the commands. Use those commands. Okay. You can start writing the program. Today, there are a lot of softwares available to write a program. You can use it in assembly, or you can use any of the key system or any other systems. There are a lot of systems available. There is something called Lauterbach. There are a lot of, it has got a simulator and emulator. There is a lot of difference between simulator and emulator. Simulator is where in your computer you simulate it and see the results. Whereas emulator, you remove the hardware, replace the processor, put this on the piggyback, and have this complete control of the complete system. Okay, and you can do a lot of things. To begin with, don't go with 8086. I would suggest go with Arduino Uno just to understand the concept flow. Then later on, you can migrate to 8086. Just with the simple micro Arduino, you just put a line path filter, put a stepper motor, put a camera, put an ultrasonic sensor, put a IR sensor, and put a gyro sensor, put an accelerometer, put a gyro sensor, make the thing to fall and have it to stand up with a controller with the X and Y axis. The codes are available on the net, easily programmable, easily doable. It is easy to begin with. Once you have the control, then migrate from controller to processor. Once you are going to processor, you are really seeing the real stuff of a robot. That time processor, what do I do? Sir, I can't use 8086. Fine. It is very complex. Then you go for Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi has got a processor. It has got an Ethernet. It has got all the IO ports. It has got a port. Easy to plug in and play.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself.
Okay, somebody has asked about yes.
Sir, good afternoon,
yes,
sir. Sir, my question is:
good afternoon.
Artificially intelligent robots are helps in COVID pandemic, sir.
Come again, ma'am. Can you repeat the question? I didn't get it.
Artificially intelligent robots are helps in COVID pandemic.
The starting word I missed. How intelligent robots are
helps in COVID pandemic, sir.
Hello, can you repeat the question, ma'am? I didn't get the question.
Sir,
yes. There are many countries already been adopted robots.
Helps in COVID pandemic because now.
Madam, you are not audible.
Sir, have some network issues here. Can I send a question in chat box, sir? Hello.
Do it.
Sir, another question is from here. How well artificial intelligence can contribute to build a robot? How well artificial intelligence can contribute to build a robot? Sir, can you hear me?
Sir, I can hear you. You can hear me?
Sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
can you hear me?
Sir. Sir. Sir, one question is here: how will artificial intelligence
So
can contribute to build a robot?
Yes. Yes, certainly. Artificial intelligence, you are talking of more of a computer science part of it. So these are all neural networks. You need to talk more of neural networks. Artificial intelligence, what is artificial intelligence? Artificial has got today no end to it. You keep on building stacks to it. So you bring more intelligence to robots. So intelligence could be anything else. Today the human body can smell. Can robots smell? The answer is no. Today you don't have the smelling capabilities of a robot. So if you want to build it, naturally there should be artificial intelligence for robots to smell it, right? Just to give an example. Today, do we have it? No. Possibly in coming days, yes, it can have it. I'm just giving example. What is artificial intelligence? You keep on building intelligence to the robot. Okay. What is artificial? Which is not real. What is real? Real are we. Human beings are real. Whatever you build is all virtual, right? So there are a lot of softwares, a lot of people are working on artificial intelligence. There are courses available in engineering also where people are being taught. There are a lot of softwares available. It's a big topic by itself. Yes, it is possible. Yes, there are a lot of work going on. You can certainly look into it and certainly you can work on it. But with the infrastructure what we have today, it calls for a lot of investment. That's all I can say. The investment part is huge. The R&D part is huge. If you look at these people who are in abroad, there's a big team working. They're working for day and night for 5 years, 6 years to come out this type of stuff. Okay, so if you can build that type of infrastructure, yes, well and good.
Okay, sir. Another question is there.
Yes,
sir. How artificially intelligent robots are helps in COVID pandemic?
Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do it. A simple thing from a faculty point of view, from a college point of view, you can just have a line path feeder. Just track a line, and you have IR sensor which can sense red or yellow pattern with IR, and you just have a robot, have a stepper motor, put it, have a battery packed to it, have some medicine or something or a food something. You can just put it on a tray, put it on a robot which can weigh kg less than 1 kg. The normal stepper motor can take less than 1 kg with the torque. You can put it and you can just, you don't have to go inside. These robots can go inside and give the food to them, give the medicines to them, or a small ET jobs, or it can be used in testing also, or it can be used in sensing also. You don't have to go and stand up person to take the samples. These robots, if you have had artificial, just take the samples. You just have a needle in it and you have to go to it, and the person who is having a COVID positive or who has to be tested for positive, you can put his nose into it. And these robots in the front end warriors, the COVIDs can certainly play a major role. Not only in that, even the shops, even in the malls, even in campus, even many places it can use. But each application calls for a different kind of robots. So you need to predominantly look in those angles. The robot cannot do 101 things, but there are robots can do 101 things, but they are very expensive. So what I'm talking is a low cost which you people can develop with a line path feeder. It could hardly cost you 1,500 rupees. You can develop your own and still it can serve the community basically. Okay, and that is one type of thing. So you are talking of complexity, more complexity, the cost also will keep on increasing. And when the cost is increasing, now how accuracy you need to see. Now the precisely, say there's a patient, I want to go to him and nearly check what is the temperature. Okay, there is a unit. When the person comes, it detects. There is an object, ultrasonic, simple ultrasonic. Put a plate. You don't have to create a robot. Put a steel plate, put an ultrasonic, put a temperature sensor. The person goes near the plate, automatically. Even that I call it as a robot. Why? It automatically detects with ultrasonic. It takes the temperature. It says there is a person, or it could be some sensor. Okay, there is something called PIR sensor, which a human body which can test the temperature also, and it can test there is some object moving. If the object is moving, a person comes, it detects the person is there, then automatically the temperature sensor will be activated, the controller, the temperature will hit, the beam will, IR will hit IR sensor, and it will take the temperature and it will tell, LCD will be there, a big LCD which will say, okay, your temperature is normal, you can move on. If the temperature is high, it will have a hooter, where hooter will make an alarm sound. Suddenly the security people or the nearby people can take action whatever they want. I'm just giving a simple basic example with the 2,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees. You can still build a lot of things around it, around it. Okay, it depends on the complexity how you are. So how artificial intelligent robots are help in COVID? Yeah. So these are all some of things which you can look at it. Basic stuff with a low cost version. You can still continue to do it. AI robots are interfaced with internet. Yes, certainly you can do it. Yes.
Sir, another question is there. List some of the ROS simulators. List some of the ROS simulators.
Now you want to ROS means real operating systems. You want to see complex things. You have Lauterbach, which is very expensive. It costs around 6 to 7 lakh rupees. There are low-cost ROS real-time operating systems which use as IAR or Keel softwares. Depends on what kind of processor you are using, what kind of controllers you're using. Based on that only the simulators can be suggested. You can't just randomly say simulators a laundry list, and you can't work on all the field. See, jack of all trade is always good. All the colleges and lecturers, we want jack, but master of none. Today we are talking of master of one, which is robotics, which is very, very complex. In the colleges, what we have jack of all. Means I need to know as an electronic person why I need mechanical in first year. Don't ask me this question. You have to study. That's it. Why you have drawing? Don't ask me this question. It is required. But when it comes to robotics, you can understand those drawings and mechanical. At least to some extent, these engineering will help you there, right? Jack of all trade. Now coming back to ROS is similar to that. Now, if a particular thing, let's say FPGA. If you're working on FPGA itself has got a huge thing. NI, LabVIEW. It has got a huge thing. You can build with NI also applications. If you have a MATLAB processor, which is only limited to software, it cannot be used in a hardware real-time application. MATLAB cannot be used. To simulate and have results, you can do all the wonders in MATLAB. Now, this is also thing. So you can use multiple softwares. Predominantly, you need to look at your application, what application you are using. There are many simulators also available, emulators available. Emulators are very expensive. I have worked extensively on emulators in the past. 20 years back only, I started working on 8031, Motorola, all those emulators. Those are pretty expensive stuff. Even today, you can start working. Simulators are what? So whichever you work on a computer is all simulators. Whichever you work on hardware, where you can have a single step, cycle step debugging, step-by-step analysis you want to do. Say suppose I'm designing something. I want to see the real-time application. At that time, you use emulators, not the simulators. Simulators, to some extent, you simulate and give you results, but those results are not valuable at all. Why? In the real-time words, there could be impedance matching, differential, signal integrity, lot of issues are there. It is not that easy. I put it a drawing on a computer, I put it on paper, it works. No, there are a lot of integration issues are there. Lot of impedance matching is there, wire issue is there, noise is there, Gaussian noise will come. Suddenly there is some audio which is coming. Suddenly the computer doesn't able to result because there is a Gaussian noise. Noise is created by itself, by a system. There could be environment noise. The computers can observe those noise. What is the noise we are talking here? We are talking of a noise of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. The human being is 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. What should your robot be? And there are some frequencies where even the insects operate at that particular lesser frequency, higher frequency. So in this frequency, I need to have the robots to listen. And that environment, there is a fan which is running at 30 kilohertz. Should I take that noise or should I take this noise? So all these questions will come up for a robotic to make a decision. At that time, the decision is based on your past history or future, or with its database, or how you are programmed. A lot of stuff. It's not that easy. For a simple application to begin at college level, these things will be fine. Take a simple simulators or simple emulators, small things to do it, fine. But if you're looking at an industry application, there are a lot of high-end equipments. The investment is huge. You can't say one particular simulator, I take it and do it. No, it is not possible. Why? If I take one simulator, there could be different simulators. If you talk of 3D mechanical, the mechanical people have different simulators where it calls for solid. I don't know, the mechanical people are on this webinar. There is some solid term called solid software. It's a pretty expensive software where you can do all kinds of mechanical activity. Can I call that for this? Yes, it is required. But can you be expert on this? Answer is no, because you are electronics, you need to fix to your simulator. There is a mechanical guy, he has to fix to his mechanical part. But the integration is the challenge again. So there are many multiple stuff which you need to consider. Okay, a lengthy answer, but that's how it is.
Thank you, sir. Another simple question is, which is the best microcontrollers for robotics?
Basically, all the robotics today are all built on ARM. But actually, there is a wrong misconcept. Many people are talking about ARM. ARM as such doesn't have any processor. ARM is an IP core. IP core is an intellectual property. ARM is a IP core which has been built by ST Microelectronics, Philips, Motorola. A lot of people have bought this. This IP core is basically what is AMBA bus structure. I don't know if you heard of AMBA bus structure. This is a bus structure which we have studied in the basics. There is a Von Neumann and Harvard structure where on the single line you take or in the multiple line. So that similar type of AMBA architecture is used. These AMBA architectures are used in MSP 430 also, where it is used for non-maskable interrupts. These structures, this ARM, which is a core which is readily available, they take this and they plug into their processor or the controllers. Okay. So basically, ARM is predominantly proven in the industry for last 70-80 years. So the ARM IP core, basically even LPC series, which is from today, which is NXP. Earlier days it was probably Philips, now it is called NXP. So those people use ARM processor, ARM controllers. So that is predominantly used, that is the best suitable for robotics, what I have come across.
Okay, sir. Thank you. How do you determine the lifespan of a robot? Do they not cause a light of e-waste after they are of no use?
This is a very good question, but I can't answer this. But you are the right person to answer. E-waste is a big topic. Okay, so the lifespan of a robot, yeah. Now, if you're talking of a computer, what is the lifespan of a computer? Depends on the usage. Sir, when I bought the computer was working very fine. After 5 years, it goes down. Why? Sir, I even cleaned up the hard disk. I rebooted. No, system is slow. Now I cleaned the complete hard disk, sir. Completely, I put new OS, but system is slow. Why, sir? Now you look at this 286, 486. I don't know if you people have worked on 486. Those days when we used to work on 286, 486, we used to go out, have a cup of coffee, and come back. Still, the task could be working. Today, whatever we have advanced dual core or Intel core i5, all those things, still we feel it is very, very slow because we do multitasking operation. Still, we feel very, very slow. Over a period of time, the computers also will get degraded. If I give this my computer to my kid, he will say this computer is very slow. Buy a new computer. The computer has got a lifespan, but the maximum is 3 years. But still, beyond that, you want to use it, you can still use it for 10 years, but the system will get degraded. It will get slow in nature. Why it gets slow? It's a big topic. It takes 1 hour to give explanation. But yes, degradation is a big topic. And as far as these ICs are concerned, there's one more thing which you people have to know. Say I buy a banana. What is the lifestyle of a banana? Like, I can keep it for 2 days or 3 days. But if I say I can keep this banana for 1 month, no, you have to throw it dustbin. Similarly, in IC industry, you cannot have IC beyond 1 year. If you are used IC, no issues, it can go for 10 or 12 years. But if you are not used in ICs, what this manufacturer they do, they dump it in the sea. So not many people are aware of it. The IC cannot be used beyond. That's why there is something called date code and manufacturing code. Similarly, for these robots also have some lifespan. Basically, these are all again computers. These computers over a period of time will get degraded, maybe 8 years or 10 years based on their usage, how you use it, how you get the task. Yes, e-waste management has to be looked at it, how you crush it, how you throw it, how you disintegrate it. And, yeah, that's a big topic altogether that I don't have an answer, but e-waste is a big concern. Not only that waste, the house which produces the garbage every day, when you call the wet and dry, that itself we have a big problem today.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything
Even
is
the government is finding a solution. Huh?
Everything is a problem today, sir.
Every morning we have announcement here. Today is a wet waste, dry waste.
Mobile is the best one, sir.
Yeah.
So thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Shall I want to add one thing?
Sir.
Yes.
Probably in the morning session may not have very much crucial thing, but in the afternoon session, which was very clear, 2:30 to 4 o'clock, it was perfectly designed. And even for a single second, we haven't got any interrupt in the session. So thanks for your session. And the session was clear and crisp. From 2:30 exactly you started and you ended up with 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. So thank you for the session. Have a nice day.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. I missed out in between for the interruption also for 5 minutes. Sorry for that. For the internet connection. Otherwise, it would have been still going on.
It's okay, sir. We are happy that it happened only once in the entire session. In the morning, 3 to 4 times.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, any more questions, sir? Any more questions?
No more questions left, sir. All questions are answered by you. So it's a really very informative session. And you have given all the answers for all the questions almost we are asked, and all participants are very happy to hear your presentation and also speech. So morning session, as we know that internet problem, due to internet problem, it is a little bit not a very good session because of internet facility only, not from resource person side. And this from now we have set up all the things here, so it is going very nicely here. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation. So
I just want to thank Shilpa for bringing me on this stage for you to give presentation at this point of time. I would like to thanks to Shilpa ma'am. She was the one key person who wanted, and she took other reference and connected to you, sir. Especially, I would like to thank in this occasion to Shilpa ma'am because she only brought me here, and all the credit goes to her also. Introducing me to this session. Thanks to Shilpa ma'am.
Thank you, sir. We cordially thanks to from our institution, Government Polytechnic Arpinalli principal and staff, thanking you for all the things you are shared here. And also, we will come back to you in the next upcoming days for any other sessions if we conduct or any FDPs will conduct. Definitely, we will invite you for all the things. So please bear all sessions with us, sir.
Please, sir. Please, sir. Great, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
So tomorrow at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we have a training session. So that will be conducted by Dr. Somshekar H. Hiremat. So they are from IIT Madras. So please, all of you, all participants are requested to be joined at within 10 o'clock only. So from tomorrow onwards, all the sessions will be go smoothly because we have set up everything here. So thank you for all of your patience and everything. So thank you so much. See you tomorrow morning. Thank you.